Hello, welcome to Stories in Time. I am your storyteller. Today I'm going to tell a story that we don't hear this kind of thing too much anymore. Somebody asked me the other day, do you remember when we used to have books or something about being a child during World War II? And I said, well, I remember being a child during World War II, but I don't see any books about it. I think that we're beyond interest. And so I'm going to tell you one today. And it's a pleasure for me to remember them. So this is called The Dutch Girl Hat. In 1942, my father was in the U.S. Army Air Corps. And after he'd been in the Air Corps for about a year, he was shipped out to India. We were at home, my mom, who worked out at Morris Field, which was the military field outside Charlotte, planes coming in and out, and she was a secretary in the dental office. She had to leave early. A woman came that was going to take care of us, and that us was 3 little girls. I was the oldest. I was 7 years old. My sister was 5, and then there was this piece of baby. My mother called my sister Kathy her piece of baby, who was about 2. It was all working fine for us. Mama was working hard. She was 27 years old. She had her hands full and she worked hard. And we had a wonderful woman that took care of us during the day. But then something happened. In the spring and in the summer in Charlotte, polio rolled through our town. Polio is a disease and was a disease in those days that looked for children. They made them very sick, or they killed them, or they made them crippled. It was very scary. Mother gave instructions to Emma so that we were not supposed to leave the yard. We were contained, we were just held in so that we didn't mix with children. You couldn't have any friends because you might be contagious for the others. So we were pretty much on our own. And I admit it, I slipped out of the yard sometimes. And Emma would turn around and call me and nothing would happen, and she'd come downstairs. And sometimes I wandered away up to the drugstore or to the grocery store with some pennies for the little gum machines. That couldn't last. And Mother didn't know exactly what she was going to do, but she and most parents were very scared of what could happen to their children. So she came up with an idea. She called Mother Benignus at Sacred Heart. About 15 miles away was a school, a boarding school for Catholics. And it would be no children there, really. That was a school that went from kindergarten to the 12th grade. And it was small, and there was really no kids there. So Mother called Mother Benignus and asked if there was any chance that Linda and I could come out there and stay for the summer. And she said, well, yes, Louie, you can. There's possibilities. We only have 2 or 3 children that are staying here this summer. They're like you, their fathers are in the Army. And so they needed some help with that. And we could take your 2 little girls. I was excited about it when it all came up. We marked the back of our clothes with a pen and some black ink and put our names in and to take out there, and we packed it in a trunk. And I didn't really know what was happening, but what was happening was that Linda and I were moving away. Sacred Heart was actually a good place for us to have been. It's a farm. It was a school, but they had barns, and they had cows, and they had chickens, and they raised their own food. And the thing that I came to love better than anything else was the laundry. I would go over there to see Sister Michael, who was in charge of the laundry. It was a big laundry building, and she'd ask me in and then ask me to just stack these shirts up and move this to that. It was small tasks, but it was an interesting place. So I liked to work in the laundry. And we felt safer, and Mama felt safer. But the first time that we got there and I saw her drive away, I cried myself to sleep for almost a month. It was hard to be away from home. And my sister I could see her from where I was. I was in a room that had 14 beds, and next door there was a room with a smaller number that was for younger children, and Linda had to be in that room, and we could see each other. And I was a little jealous of her, actually, because she had naturally curly hair. And Sister Raymond would come in there and sit on the side of her bed and brush her hair. Just brush it and then put it into Shirley Temple curls. I did not have curly hair, and so there was no need for anybody to brush my hair, as it turned out. And then it got to be all right. Mother called us on Wednesday nights, and every other week she came out on a Sunday. And we were living on a farm. So when school opened again and the movies were back at work and school was open, she decided that the best thing to help us out, she still had her job, she had Kathy at home, was to leave us in the school for that year. And by that time, Linda and I pretty much felt like the Sacred Heart was at home. And it was all right. We knew the teachers, we knew some of the children, not all, but they were pretty nice. And then after Christmas, and we came back from being home for Christmas, and that Christmas was a little sad. Daddy wasn't there. We had a little table to have cookies with, and there was a picture of him on the table, so that Mother took the picture to send to him that we thought he was with us for that Christmas. And we went back to Sacred Heart, and they began to talk about the spring festival. I'd never heard of a spring festival. It was a May Day. It was going to be a May Day. And all they told us was there'd be a pole with these bright ribbons hanging down, and we could dance around it. And it sounded very exciting. And each one of the classes had a different dance that they were going to do. It was a group thing. You know, my sister Linda was in kindergarten, and they were going to do the Mexican hat dance. So the sisters took them upstairs in these huge rooms, and those rooms had racks of clothes for kids at all sizes, costumes, evening dresses for the bigger girls, First Communion dresses. And then they took them up there and they picked out their costumes that would be Mexican. Colorful, sweet, lovely. And a big hat that would be something they were going to dance with. I was part of the third grade, and so Sister Loyola told us, you're going to be Dutch girls. Really? Yes. We'll do a Dutch dance, girls' dance. And so she gathered us up and took us up to the top in those big rooms. And there were racks and shelves with wooden shoes on them, with dresses that looked, sort of like a little child, Sonia Henney. And we had wooden shoes and those. And then she said, there's only one thing that your mother will have to do. She has to make a white hat, a Dutch hat for you, all of you. And I'll send this home and tell them what to do and how to get it back here. And we practiced every day, and it was so exciting. We'd go out. If it was raining, we would practice in the auditorium. If it was nice weather, we'd be outside in this large field where it was going to be. And dancing, and they had music, and it was so, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. It was so exciting. And Mama said she was making it. She told me that. I asked her over the phone. We talked to her on the phone every Wednesday and said, now, did you get the letter from Sister Loyola? Yes, I got the letter. Getting started on it. It's going to be white, you know, that's what they want. So she went ahead. The day of the May Day, we were lined up in this big building outside. Each class was lined up as you were going to come up to do your dance, to think. It was filling up with parents and families, children, and then their families. And I didn't have a hat. Sister looked at me and she said, Ellouise, you don't have a hat. What are we going to do? Well, how did I know what we were going to do? It was my mother making that hat. And we were just about to be called, and I was so afraid that she would say, you can't do it without that hat. When I looked across the field, and there was a woman running as fast as she could, running. And she was waving what looked like a white flag with strings on it. She was waving my Dutch girl's hat. She had made it. She had made it, and she got there on time. Oh, it was wonderful. Later in my life, I was doing some genealogy. And I went to her and I said, you know what I found out? That your early relatives, our early relatives, were Dutch. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Well, they were, Mama. They're in this book at the North Carolina room at the library. And I read about it. And they came over earlier. And they came over in big boats with sails on them. And they came into New York. They were part of the Dutch that came here for New York, New Amsterdam, and all of that. And there's so much more we can learn about it. Well, I'm glad that you're interested in that, Ellouise, and you go right ahead, honey. That's not one of the things I'm interested in, but you go right ahead. But you know, as I think about it, Ellouise, that was hard, making that Dutch hat. That was really, really hard. And I don't know where it is. Do you? No, I didn't. I wish I had have. Thank you for listening. It's a memory from the days of World War II.